Jerry, can you close that door real quick? Yeah. All right. Cool. Okay. So yeah, we said the Spirit resides within us.
Hey guys, let's listen.
Okay, we've got our pizza, we've got our drinks. Let's listen. All right. Really? All right. Okay, so we said that the Spirit resides within us. All right, that God's presence is actually living within us when we are baptized in Him. That in the Old Testament, God's presence was especially in the most holy of holies. That only the Levites could serve in there, and only God-ordained members of Aaron's family could serve as the priests/high priests. The Spirit helps us solve problems. It guides us. It lives within us and comforts us. It groans with us in one passage. It teaches us, and that the Son and Spirit don't know all the Father knows. And then it was Genesis 1 and Genesis 18 that we brought up. So, what did you find about the Holy Spirit or the Trinity? So, any one of those aspects in the Bible. Yeah. All right. What did you find? All right. Get your Bibles. Open up to Genesis 1 and 2. Hey, Eli.
You're right there.
I know.
Oh, way to make an appearance. I thought you meant like.
All right. Who needs a Bible?
Bible.
All right. You don't? All right.
Genesis 1, 2.
Yes, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. All right. All right. Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. What's it say?
Now the earth was formless and in darkness was.
Hold up. Okay, guys. If the pizza and the food and all this stuff is going to start to become a distraction for class, then I'm going to have to take it out. Okay? So we need to be able to focus while we're in here. All right? So.
Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters.
Okay. The Spirit of God. Okay? And so that's one clue right there. Somebody else, Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 26. Somebody else read that.
I got it.
All right.
Verse 26.
Yep.
Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, and the birds in the sky, over the livestock, and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground."
Okay. Yeah. So he says, let us make mankind in
our image.
our. Okay. Now I'm not a big grammar person myself, but us and our are a. Huh?
Same thing.
Same thing, right? Is it singular or plural?
Plural.
Right, there it is. Okay. So it's a plural form, so it's obviously not that God is talking to him. Well, in a way he's talking to himself, but it's not something where he's saying, it's just kind of like let me make mankind in my image. He's saying let us make mankind in our image. Okay? So let's see here, Genesis chapter 18, verses 17 through 19. Somebody else read that one. Genesis 18. 17 through 19.
And the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed with him. For I have chosen him so that he will judge his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord. He'll keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just to get the Lord to bring about Abraham like he has promised."
Okay. Who's he talking to? Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you look in that passage, if you look in that entire chapter right there, one thing that you'll notice is that this is when God shows up at Abraham's door, and there's the two other people that are with him. Okay? So there are some people that have said, well, really, he might be talking to the angels, but I think traditionally the view within the church when it comes to this passage is that God was talking essentially to himself, as in to the Spirit and the Son at this point, and kind of just, this is kind of like an inner dialogue that God has revealed to us. And so that's another passage that people refer to. Let's see here, go to Judges chapter 3, verse 10. Judges 3, verse 10.
The Spirit of the Lord came on him, so that he became Israel's judge, and went to war. The Lord gave, how do you say that name?
Othniel.
No, it's a different name. It's like Kujin, some like Kujin, Harish, Fatima, king of Aram, into the hands of Othniel, who overpowered him. So the land had peace for 40 years, until Othniel, son of King Ez, died.
Yeah.
Generally, so.
Yeah. Wow. Kushan. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it says the Spirit of the Lord, right? You actually see that come up a couple more times in Judges. Somebody else grab Judges 6, verse 34. Judges 6, verse 34.
I got it.
All right.
Then the Spirit of the Lord came to Gideon, and blew a trumpet, summoning the Abizarites.
Have you? Yeah, that's close enough. Yeah.
Abizarites to follow him.
Okay. Nope, that's good. Okay. So once again, we see the Spirit of the Lord, and it's in capitals, and so it's trying to make sure that we understand this is important, this is different. All right. Somebody else. Well, since there's 3 or 4 different references here, when you go into the story of Samson, you see it come up a couple different times, and that starts off in Judges 13, verse 25. Let's see here. There's 14:6. And then again in chapter 14 with verse 19. And then 15, 14. Yeah, I am. All right.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay.
Sorry. Do you want us to read those? Or do you just want us to?
I'll text it out later. Okay.
For reference.
All right. So yeah, in the story of Samson, just like what you see with the other judges here, you see this consistently happen where whenever God needs Samson to act in a powerful way to rescue his people, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. Okay? So, based on that, whenever Saul becomes king, and he first becomes king, and he needs to take action, what do you think that we're going to see? Spirit of the Lord will come upon him. Go to 1 Samuel 11:6. So I'm going to read 1 Samuel 11:6.
Oh, I got it.
All right.
When Saul heard their words, the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, and he burned with anger.
Okay.
I'm burning with anger.
Swipe reverse. All right.
That's what it too.
Yeah.
Now,
Next one is
now I
Brianna's guys.
All right.
No.
No. I've got a good one for you. It's 1 Samuel 16:14.
Oh,
Okay. So Saul is made king over the Israelites.
now the Spirit of the Lord has.
He's talking first.
No, it's fine.
Go ahead, Brianna.
I'm not even there.
What here? Try it.
Just me.
Go ahead.
You have it. Just me.
You're angry. You go.
Oh my God. What was the
I'm a good friend.
16:14.
Right down the middle page.
Okay. Now the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented him.
Okay.
Good job.
So chapter 11, we see God has anointed Saul to be king over the Israelites. And when Saul finds out that the Philistines are attacking the Israelites, we see that what happens? The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him, right? And so then after that, Saul does not obey. And so we just see that in chapter 16, the Spirit of the Lord departs from Saul. All right? Because God has said, all right, that's it. Saul is not going to be the king anymore. And it's going to go to somebody else. So the Spirit departs from him. Okay? Let's see here. Here's a fun one. 1 Samuel chapter 19. We don't have to actually pull this up and read it. You guys can check this out yourselves later. But in chapter 19, this is when Saul starts trying to go after David. Saul finds out where David is, and he's with Samuel. And Samuel basically just tells him, no, you're not going to run. You're going to stay right here. And so Saul finds out and says, all right, I want this company of men. I want you to go get them. They get there, and as soon as they get there, what do you think happens? Based on what we've been saying, what do you think happens?
Spirit of the Lord.
Spirit of the Lord comes upon the men. They don't touch him. They start prophesying, and they get overwhelmed by the Spirit of the Lord, and they stop the chase. Saul says, all right, send another group. What do you think happens to them?
Spirit of the Lord.
Spirit of the Lord comes upon them. Finally, Saul says, this is ridiculous. I'm tired of this. Goes over there. Yes, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon Saul once again. Okay? And so we keep seeing this occurrence. All right? Especially considering that, I didn't actually plan this, but go to Isaiah 11, Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. Somebody read that.
Isaiah chapter 11, verses 1 through 3.
Yep.
A shoot will come upon from the stump of Jesse, from his roots a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of might, the Spirit of knowledge and fear of the Lord, and he will delight in the fear of the Lord. And he will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work.
You gotta sneeze?
I don't see this.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we said when the judges were when God needed them to take action, what happened?
The Spirit of the Lord.
The Spirit of the Lord came upon them. The judges can't keep Israel from continuously falling into the cycle. It eventually becomes a kingship, right? Saul is made king, and when he's anointed king, what happens? The Spirit of the Lord comes, right? Saul can't keep his promise, and so what happens then? Left. Yes, Spirit of the Lord left. Okay? So now, in Isaiah, who are we talking about in chapter 11?
Spirit of the Lord.
Who's the stump of Jesse?
Jesus.
Jesus, right? Okay, Jesus comes from what family line?
Jesse.
Jesse, right? Okay, so if you go and you follow Jesus' family line down the road, down here eventually, you have David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz. Who does Boaz marry?
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
Nice.
Rude.
I was just thinking if I could do it. I was saying it at the moment.
Okay. So you have Boaz, and what do we know about Boaz?
He married Ruth.
Besides that, he was married to Ruth. All right, one at a time. One at a time.
He had a son
Obviously, he had a son.
named Abraham.
Okay, you're right. All right. What else? What do we remember about Boaz? What's the story with Boaz? What does he do for Ruth?
He lets
the stuff.
He, like-
she can pick up more.
He's a nice guy.
Yes. He's a good guy. He's not just a good guy. He's obedient. He's obedient to God's will, right?
Yes.
He actually makes sure that the poor are taken care of. And then not just that they're taken care of, but that they're abundantly taken care of, right? He's really living out precisely what God intended for the Israelites to do, okay? When Boaz and Ruth get married, they have Obed. Obed gives birth to Jesse. Jesse eventually becomes the father of David. And what happens in between David and Jesus? Are they good kings or bad kings?
Good.
Mostly bad. All right.
You said Jesus. You're mostly wrong.
You are bad people.
All right.
Some good ones.
Mostly bad though.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
Alright.
said
What was that one that had the son that died?
Yeah, which one is that?
All right. Shh. Listen. All right. So there were some good ones, like Hezekiah was a good king, even though he made the mistake of showing off his fortunes and his treasures and everything to Babylon. By and large, Hezekiah was a good king because whenever Assyria comes and tries to attack, he does what?
He
Yes.
defends.
He consults the Lord. He prays.
Wait. Consultant.
Well, it's kind of both. I mean, he prays to God, but he's basically asking God to intervene on the behalf of Israel. Okay? And so he goes before the Lord and he says, look, this is what they're saying. This is what Assyria is saying, but I know that you can take care of this. And what happens to the Assyrian army that's encamped outside?
They all died.
They all die.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I said
Okay.
you all did.
So there's some good ones, but mostly bad. And so when they refer to Jesus as the stump of Jesse, it's because basically you're looking at it like this. Jesse's tree, Jesse's family line, is this abundant tree where you've got all these good kings or bad kings and everything else. But what happens to Judah? Doesn't go very well. What happens?
They go in exile.
They go in exile, right? And so Babylon basically comes along and says, no more. Because David's line did not follow God's commands. And so it's like there's this stump left. But it says a shoot will come up. And that's Obed.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Obed.
Yes.
That's the one that's like, you see how it like
Okay. And so, moving
So
on.
his dad's name's Obed and his son's
Obed's son is Jesse.
Boaz and Obed.
You said
And
you
then
were out.
Obed's son is Jesse. And
All right.
then Jesse then David. And then
All right. So, it talks about this and it says the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. Okay? So it's the Messiah is going to have the Spirit himself. All right? And why do we see the Spirit show up most of the time in the Old Testament? So far?
To help.
To help. To rescue, right?
Yeah.
Because God's people are in trouble. And so God says, I will send my Spirit. All right? If you go to the book of Ezekiel, you'll see the Spirit mentioned at least 12 times. We talked about Daniel. One of the easiest times that you can see the Trinity in the text is Matthew chapter 3, verse 16. Somebody open to that.
watching. Matthew 1. Matthew what?
3:16.
As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water, and at the moment heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And like a dove. What?
Matthew 3:16.
Matthew. Not John 3:16.
Yeah, I was going to say that's completely wrong.
Okay.
That's not that one.
Oh, sorry. And verse 17, it continues and it says, and a voice from heaven said, this is my son whom I love, with him I am well pleased. So you see Jesus, the Son, you see the Father speaking, and you see the Spirit coming down as a dove. Okay? In Matthew 24:36, and you also see it in Mark 13:32. You see this part where Jesus specifically says, only the Father knows the day and hour of judgment. Okay? And so that's kind of what we were referring to just a little bit ago on the other slide, where we were saying that, obviously, even though they're one, somehow the Son and the Spirit don't know everything that God the Father knows. So, let me read John 1:18.
John,
No one has ever seen God. Go ahead.
no one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in a closest relationship with the Father,
Okay.
and made him known.
Okay. And only the Son, who is himself God. Okay? There's no question in the eyes of John that Jesus is not just a God, he's not just a part of it, that he is, in fact, God himself. Okay? Think about how crazy that must have been as an Israelite to realize that. What would happen if you were to walk into the Holy of Holies, where God's presence was? Yeah. His holiness destroys you, right? If you're not supposed to be in the Holy of Holies and you enter it, his holiness will destroy you.
Isn't there
Okay?
like three parts of the Holy Holies? You're like the Holy Holies, and the Most Holy.
Yeah. There's, like we talked about before. Yeah. There's the main temple, and then there's the Holy of Holies, and then there's the Most Holy of Holies. Okay. If you actually go further into like the Jewish culture and everything, if you go further into the Jewish culture, what you'll actually notice is that the Jews started building up this like concentric layer of holiness within, even going in throughout Jerusalem. And so there's like the Most Holy of Holies, there's the Holy of Holies, there's the temple, there's like, it goes all the way out to Jerusalem. And then it kind of goes out from there. Huh? Girls? Alright.
Search for what?
Okay. But yeah, it's this like concentric circle of holiness, and the closer you get to the Most Holy of Holies, the more holy the place gets. Okay? So, you're an Israelite, you know that if you cannot go into the temple because you're not, one of the sons of Aaron, you're not in that family, and then here comes Jesus, and at first you don't really know exactly that Jesus is God. The more it becomes apparent to you that Jesus is God and he's standing right here in front of you, how would that make you feel?
I wouldn't feel worthy to do it.
They're like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very intimidating thing because you've been trained with this idea that God does not come into the presence of people like this, and yet here he is in the flesh. Again, John is making it very clear that the Son, who is himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, who is in himself God and yet still is in the closest relationship with the Father. Okay? Very clear that the authors understood that there was this difference. Okay? John 14:9. Philip asked Jesus to show them the Father, right? Jesus comes back and says, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. Okay? The thing about the Trinity is that it's not an easy thing to grasp. Okay? Because I can sit here and say, I'm one person. Josiah is one person. JB's one person. But it's not like, Transformers or anything like that, where like we link arms and suddenly we're this, mighty fighting machine or anything like that, okay? I'm pretty sure I would make us like run slower and start having asthma attacks or something. I don't know. But this is the tricky thing about it, because we're talking about, obviously they each have different roles, and yet they're still one. Even back in the Old Testament, you see this. I mean, the whole call that the Israelites would try and say or repeat each day was, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Right? So he's one, but he's three.
Ouch.
Exactly. All right? So, I'm going to play a video here in just a second, but before I do that, the main thing that I want you guys to understand is this, is because there are, unfortunately, still today, people that don't exactly agree with that line of thinking. And so the easiest way to understand this, to break this down, is this, is that anytime you encounter anyone that says that God, the Son, or the Spirit are not 100% God, that's not Trinity. Because if God is not God, that's a problem in and of itself. All right, if God is not 100% God, that's a problem. If Jesus was not 100% God, how is that a problem? He could have died for us. Would it have mattered?
No.
No. All right. They are each 100% God. How does that work? I have no idea. All right.
It's like giving it a 100%.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like saying 100% plus 100% equals, or 100% plus 100% plus 100% equals
100%.
100%.
So it's like, yeah.
It's biblical math. Yay.
65%.
There's actually a lot of math. If you actually go and study Hebrew language, each letter represents like different numbers and everything. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's data.
All right. I want to play this video for you guys real quick.
I have a question.
Years. It's like Shrek.
Yeah.
I have to say,
That's a stereotype
more
to Irish people.
honesty
I
is
take
lips
offense to
gonna
that because
touch.
I'm Irish.
Okay.
His lips are touching.
All right.
A good one.
So, you might ask, why on earth did I show that to you? Because did you guys understand a word of what they were saying?
Patrick.
Partialism. Okay.
Patrick.
Patrick. Yeah. Okay. So, if you guys actually stop and like listen to what they're saying a little bit, it starts to make a little bit of sense. It takes a little bit of time, but the key reason that I wanted to show this to you is because it is difficult to try and explain the Trinity. Okay? Aside from saying that they are all God, that they are fully God, and yet they still have different roles, like you said towards the beginning there about the mystery that cannot be comprehended. Okay? This is something that we cannot wrap our minds around. I used to sit there and think that, well, maybe when judgment comes and we all get to see God in heaven, maybe then it will make sense. I'm starting to wonder if that really would occur, because I'm still going to be a human. All right? So, again, the main purpose of that video was to say this, is that trying to explain the Trinity is difficult. Trying to use an analogy to explain the Trinity is difficult. The easiest thing to do is to simply say, God is one. There are three God. There is three-part God, but not 1/3. Okay? But that God is one. There is the Father, Son, and Spirit, still one. That's right, because I really have no idea how that works. The more I try and wrap my mind around that one, the more I just sit there and start to feel like my mind's about ready to explode. So
It's like having a heart, a lung, and a brain.
Partialism, Patrick.
Come on,
Alright, so that is it for our series on Back to the Basics, guys.
I like the background.
Alright, this is what we're gonna start out next week. We're gonna start doing the world religions course, okay? Starting next week, we will do, we'll kind of like introduce it. We'll talk about some of the early religions and mythologies. But we'll also talk about Islam. We'll talk about Buddhism, Hinduism, and Sikhism, and kind of wrap it up from there. So,
Yeah, we learned about Buddhism.
I just said we were going to.
Yes, Buddhism.
All right. So coming up on Sunday, we've got the youth afternoon. We're going to do one for the boys' cabin from the children's home. So that's just going to be right here in the church building, right after morning worship. And then after that, we'll just continue to hang out until 4:30. So if the boys from the children's home decide to join us, they can come out there with us and hang out. And if they decide to go home, we're still going out there. All right. All you need to bring is dessert. Buddy goes and secure chips.
When you say out there, you mean apron?
Yes.
Or where?
Student center apron. Yes. So.
I'm not sure.
The following Sunday, we're going to do guy girl time, so we're going to be at the church building before, just like we usually do, and we'll hang out till 7:30. We're going to do Mexican snack for dinner, so ground beef and chips will be provided, so just bring toppings. Lock-in, we're going to do the lock-in on the 19th and 20th. That's a Friday and Saturday, so get ready for that. Bring your friend, snack, dessert, drink.
That was like the 2 days.
Before what?
Before we get out of school. Or 8 to school. Wait, when do y'all get out of school? It's later.
Oh, really?
26.
You guys get out here.
Yeah,
Yeah, was a promotion. 7th graders have to go till the 25th.
I would skip it. Like I always do.
Always do.
Okay.
Because like the last 2 days, yeah, the last 2 days of school were get out early, so it's really so if we show back. I mean, I want to go, just hang out with friends more.
I'm just going to last 2 days.
All right. That's all for tonight. Love you guys. You're awesome.
Delicious.
Get out of here and start driving me crazy.
Sorry.
Oh!
I like it.
Thanks.
Just kidding. Wait, I didn't get any Oreos.
Can I put this in the refrigerator?
Put what in the refrigerator?
I like.